to A Year of War and Peace. I'm your host, Brian E. Denton. A Year of War and Peace is a daily, year-long, chapter-by-chapter reading of and meditation on Leo Tolstoy's epic novel, War and Peace. In these videos and podcasts, you'll be treated to a free reading of one chapter per day of the novel, plus a reflective essay I've written individually tailored to that day's chapter. These readings are offered for free, though if you'd like to support me, you can do so in one of three ways. First, you could purchase my ebook, A Year of War and Peace. It features the entire novel, plus all of my reflective essays, and it's only $2.99 on Amazon.com. You could also become a patron at patreon.com/Brian E. Denton. If you sign up there, you'll receive a sonnet once a month, plus a link to an ebook of my collected sonnets. Finally, if you like, you can make a one-time donation to my PayPal account. The email there is brianedenton@gmail.com. You can also use that email to contact me. I'd be happy to hear from you. Your support is greatly appreciated. Today's reading and reflection is from chapter 294. Chapter 294. A man in motion always devises an aim for that motion. To be able to go 1,000 miles, he must imagine that something good awaits him at the end of those 1,000 miles. One must have the prospect of a promised land to have the strength to move. The promised land for the French during their advance had been Moscow. During the retreat, it was their native land. But that native land was too far off. And for a man going 1,000 miles, it is absolutely necessary to set aside his final goal and to say to himself, "Today I shall get to a place 25 miles off where I shall rest and spend the night." And during the first day's journey, that resting place eclipses his ultimate goal and attracts all his hopes and desires. And the impulses felt by a single person are always magnified by a crowd. For the French retreating along the old Smolensk road, the final goal, their native land, was too remote, and their immediate goal was Smolensk, toward which all their desires and hopes, enormously intensified in the mass, urged them on. It was not that they knew that much food and fresh troops awaited them in Smolensk, nor that they were told so. On the contrary, their superior officers and Napoleon himself knew that provisions were scarce there, but because this alone could give them strength to move on and endure the present privations. So both those who knew and those who did not know deceived themselves, and pushed on to Smolensk as to a promised land. Coming out onto the high road, the French fled with surprising energy and unheard-of rapidity toward the goal they had fixed on. Besides the common impulse which bound the whole crowd of French into one mass and supplied them with a certain energy, there was another cause binding them together, their great numbers. As with the physical law of gravity, their enormous mass drew the individual human atoms to itself. In their hundreds of thousands, they moved like a whole nation. Each of them desired nothing more than to give himself up as a prisoner to escape from all this horror and misery. But on the one hand, the force of this common attraction to Smolensk, their goal, drew each of them in the same direction. On the other hand, an army corps could not surrender to a company, and though the French availed themselves of every convenient opportunity to detach themselves and to surrender on the slightest decent pretext, such pretexts did not always occur. Their very numbers and their crowded and swift movement deprived them of that possibility, and rendered it not only difficult but impossible for the Russians to stop this movement, to which the French were directing all their energies. Beyond a certain limit, no mechanical disruption of the body could hasten the process of decomposition. A lump of snow cannot be melted instantaneously. There is a certain limit of time, in less than which no amount of heat can melt the snow. On the contrary, the greater the heat, the more solidified the remaining snow becomes. Of the Russian commanders, Kutuzov alone understood this. When the flight of the French army along the Smolensk road became well defined, what Konoyitsin had foreseen on the night of the 11th of October began to occur. The superior officers all wanted to distinguish themselves, to cut off, to seize, to capture, and to overthrow the French, and all clamored for action. Kutuzov alone used all his power, and such power is very limited in the case of any commander-in-chief, to prevent an attack. He could not tell them what they say now. Why fight? Why block the road, losing our own men and inhumanely slaughtering unfortunate wretches? What is the use of that when a third of their army has melted away on the road from Moscow to Vyazma without any battle? But, drawing from his aged wisdom what they could understand, he told them of the Golden Bridge, and they laughed at and slandered him, flinging themselves on, rending and exulting over the dying beast. Ermolov, Miloradovich, Platov, and others in proximity to the French near Vyazma could not resist their desire to cut off and break up the two French corps, and, by way of reporting their intention to Kutuzov, they sent him a blank sheet of paper and an envelope. And try as Kutuzov might to restrain the troops, our men attacked, trying to bar the road. Infantry regiments, we are told, advanced to attack with music and with drums beating, and killed and lost thousands of men. But they did not cut off or overthrow anybody, and the French army, closing up more firmly at the danger, continued, while steadily melting away, to pursue its fatal path to Smolensk. Alright, so that concludes my reading of chapter 294. I will now proceed to my reflection on the same. A Year of War and Peace, day 294. Bubble Trouble. While there is a certain amount of wisdom in crowds, there is also great folly. Financial markets, like a West Ham United matchday kickoff, are forever blowing bubbles. Bubbles, of the financial, not East London Football Club variety, are economic events defined by a rapid escalation of asset prices, followed by a sudden, often calamitous drop of the same. This surge in prices is driven by an irrational, crowd-induced mania that divorces stocks and other equities from their underlying value. Investors abandon traditional fundamentals of investing in favor of cashing in on the bonanza because, hey, everyone can't be wrong. Well, everyone can be wrong. The Russian commanders, excepting Kutuzov, of course, are wrong today. They see a weakened French army, and they want to pounce. They counsel attack. Kutuzov does his best to warn them. Why attack, he asks. The French are a fleeing and mortally wounded animal. There's no need to attack. Nature will take care of them. No need for intervention. Nobody listens. The urge to attack spreads like a contagion among the people, with the fierceness of a tulip mania and the exuberance of the dot-com boom. Only when this bubble bursts, the result is that thousands are killed and wounded. But, Tolstoy writes, they did not cut off or overthrow anybody, and the French army, closing up more firmly at the danger, continued, while steadily melting away, to pursue its fatal path to Smolensk. Daily Meditation. Do you ask me what you should regard as especially to be avoided? I say crowds. For as yet you cannot trust yourself to them with safety. To consort with the crowd is harmful. There is no person who does not make some vice attractive to us, or stamp it upon us, or taint us unconsciously therewith. Certainly, the greater the mob with which we mingle, the greater the danger. Seneca, Letter 7. All right, so that concludes my reading of and reflection on day 294 of War and Peace. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for listening. Remember that if you'd like to support me, you can do so either by purchasing the ebook, A Year of War and Peace, becoming a patron at patreon.com, or making a one-time donation to PayPal. The links to all that are down below. Your support is greatly appreciated. Also down below, you're going to find links to my Amazon wishlist for books and movies, and if you decide to support me by buying one of those, we'll set up a Zoom talk to talk about that book or movie, or both, or whatever you want to talk about. So thanks for that if that's what you decide to do. If not, that's okay too. Tomorrow we're going to be reading and reflecting on chapter 295 of War and Peace. I hope you'll join me. Until then, take care of yourselves and others.